What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about a game that I have just finished playing, and it was a gaming experience like I have never felt before. That game is none other than the 2023 Game of the Year, Elden Ring. So, the reason I feel like that I can make an interesting video about Elden Ring is because my experience with it is probably different than most players. Elden Ring was actually my first Souls-like game. It's actually a funny story how I came about deciding to play Elden Ring, so let me break it down for you. So, I'm probably what you'd call a video game noob. I like to dabble in video games, but I'm certainly no fanatic. As a kid, I loved Crash Bandicoot and Splinter Cell, but it certainly wasn't until my mid-20s that I'd heard of Souls-like games. Games I'd usually play consisted of sports games such as FIFA and UFC, and from time to time I'd delve into big open world games such as Red Dead and The Last of Us. But to summarise, my video game catalogue was pretty bland to say the least. I was far from a certified gamer. However, I always had that itch to find that game that would truly make me feel that ultimate divine gaming experience. Games like Red Dead and The Last of Us almost gave me that feeling, but I didn't find them challenging enough, and there's only so much FIFA and UFC you can play before it starts to rot your brain, so it's safe to say I had a void yet to be filled. That was until 2023, when Elden Ring released. There was so much hype around this game. It was all I could see on social media platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, and it looked fucking cool. So after it won Game of the Year in 2023, I thought enough is enough, it's time to download the game. I didn't know any background on the game. I didn't know that FromSoft had been releasing games alike to Elden Ring since the early 2000s. I didn't know the scale of the fanbase those games had. I didn't even know the overall premise of the game. I just trusted the hype and hoped that I'd enjoy it. So after downloading the game and spending about 2 hours creating a character, I finally made my way through the tutorial area and entered through the door into Limgrave. And my first thoughts were, holy shit, this game looks beautiful. Even on the first steps looking into the distance in Limgrave, I knew I was in for an adventure. That was until I was met with the Tree Sentinel. This guy kicked my ass for hours straight. I didn't understand the concept of Elden Ring yet, and that some bosses were optional. So all I can say is for the rest of the night playing Elden Ring, it consisted of the Tree Sentinel torturing my ass. Repeatedly. I turned the game off in a sulk. Surely there's more to this game than getting my ass kicked repeatedly. Well, the next day I turned on my PlayStation and decided I need to adopt a different approach. What if I just avoided the Tree Sentinel? Is that allowed? Well, luckily for me it was, and I made it to the Church of Ella and met the merchant Kale. And due to my lack of knowledge on merchants in FromSoft games, and the Tree Sentinel making me feel like everything in this damn world is out to kill me, I stupidly attacked Kale, not realising he was actually in the game to help you. Anyway, Kale repeatedly kicked my ass for a while, and I decided enough was enough. I'm never going back to the Church of Ella again. I then made my way to the Dragonburnt Ruins, avoiding every living thing on my way, and I somehow made it to a chest. I thought, cool, a chest. Surely this is going to give me something that will power up my character so I can go back and kill the Tree Sentinel, right? Well, I was wrong. Instead, I got teleported to what can only be described as hell. It teleported me to a crystal tunnel that I clearly was too underleveled to be in, and the worst part was, I didn't know how to escape. I would get killed, try to escape again, and repeat. This went on for hours and hours. My experience with Elden Ring so far had left me furious. Surely I was missing something. Now, I was used to easy games like Red Dead and The Last of Us that held your hand along the way. This was something that I'd never experienced. There was no clues as to where to go, no hints. I was just thrown in the deep end, and I'd had enough. I turned the game off after the Crystal Tunnel incident and vowed to never play the game again. I'd accepted it. Maybe I wasn't cut out for these types of video games. Anyway, fast forward to a month or so ago. I was bored, and I thought I'd look through my catalogue of games that I'd downloaded but not yet played, to which I see Elden Ring. The PTSD came flooding back. That is the game that humbled me worse than my first high school crush rejecting me, and I thought, why is it still in my catalogue? I thought that I deleted it, but instead of going ahead and deleting it, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna try play it again, but this time, I'm not letting it get the better of me. It was time to make Elden Ring my bitch. So after re-downloading the game and spending another 2 hours creating a new character, I was back on the first steps of Limgrave, but this time with more determination than my first playthrough. I knew it was a mistake going into the game without any info of what to do or how to play the game and what everything means, so I watched a couple of YouTube videos for some tips, which really boosted my confidence. I learned from these videos to speak to every NPC I find within the game. I learned that runes is essentially money to buy weapons and level up, and I learned that merchants are in fact friends and not foe. I also learnt a couple of other important things, such as the importance of golden seeds and incantations, etc. Oh, and that I can also use a horse to get places quicker, and that I can fast travel. Pretty important things to know. It's safe to say I was now more prepared to tackle this game after the help from fellow YouTubers, but what I was unaware of was I was about to embark on a journey that would turn out to be one of the best gaming experiences of my life. After completing the mission I set out for myself of getting Torrent and getting the ability to level up, I knew I needed to get comfortable fighting enemies, because even a basic knight was still intimidating to me at this point. And as for those large troll things, that was a simple case of hopping on Torrent and riding far away as possible from it. I knew my fear of these enemies was a problem that I needed to conquer. I no longer wanted to fear these enemies, I wanted them to fear me. So along the way of heading to Stormvale Castle, I passed through the Gatefront ruins and went to battle fighting the knights to get comfortable with the fighting mechanics and also to gain some runes to level up. It's funny looking back at how much I struggled in this area. When you go back to Gatefront ruins as a higher leveled player, you can easily one-shot all the knights, but when I was fighting them in this instance, it felt like me versus a 1,000 man army. I died many times, but a few hours later, I had leveled up a good amount and got more comfortable with dodging and the overall mechanics of the game. I now felt it was time to see what awaited me in this castle that I was headed for. And what awaited me in this castle was the first true test of the game, Margit the Fell Omen. I knew when I walked through the fog that it was about to be an epic battle because it was the first cutscene that I had encountered in this game. I knew it must be significant. And when this decrepit beast jumps down from the castle roof and says, "Foul tarnished," I started to feel the adrenaline pumping through my thumbs. What this beast was? I have no fucking idea, but I knew he looked badass, and I wasn't going to settle until he was felled. The next 2 nights of gaming consisted of me figuring out Margit's moveset, all while dying a lot. A hell of a lot. My first 20 attempts, I'd say it felt impossible, like I was never going to be able to fell this beast, and that I just wasn't good enough. The more I tried, and the more I adopted different tactics and learned when to dodge his attacks, the closer I would get to killing him. It was satisfying as hell when it first hit me that these bosses aren't in fact impossible to kill, and they are very much doable. I just had to put the work in. I fought and fought away, making every hit count with my basic longsword. I was getting closer and closer, relying on every bit of luck I could get, panic rolling like a maniac. And finally, after 2 long nights of gaming and something like 80 or so attempts, I finally killed Margit the Fell Omen. I jumped up and started celebrating, breaking out in some sort of a dance, and that's when I realised what this game was all about. That is when it hit me. I had finally figured out why this game wasn't giving me hints, why it wasn't holding my hand, and why the bosses were so hard. It was because of the feeling the player gets when they succeed. It's earned, it's fulfilling, and it makes you feel fucking awesome. Looking back, Margit isn't that hard of a boss, but what I find cool is that at one point, I felt like killing him was impossible, but fighting him showed me that hard work pays off, and with hard work, you can in fact achieve the impossible. And it's safe to say at this point I was absolutely sold on the game. And it's funny, all that was different from my first playthrough was that I had a different mentality. In my first playthrough, I was more reserved and unsure. This time, I was willing and determined, and that mentality is what I believe helped me kill my first boss in Elden Ring, and it's that mentality I was planning to adopt for the rest of my playthrough. I now didn't want hints, respawn points, and the game to hold my hand like I had in other games. I wanted this experience of me being thrown in the deep end to continue, because I realised to reach those levels of satisfaction like when I killed Margit, I could have nobody holding my hand and giving me hints. I had to figure this out all on my own. So, after the realisation that I was capable of killing bosses, I knew I had other aspects of the game to figure out. I wanted to get comfortable with other elements of the game, such as leveling up weapons, finding rare items, side quests, and just the overall story of the game. So after reading some tips on what to do after killing Margit on Reddit, I decided my next mission would be simply explore. It was time to traverse the huge scale of this world, and rather than going to seek my next battle, I would let it seek me. And after some time exploring Lernia, that's when the other aspects of this game that made me fall in love with it hit me. It's the freedom. As I said before, many games I had played previously, such as The Last of Us, had linear storylines, but with Elden Ring it was the total opposite. You could go wherever your heart tells you, and see what adventures await you along the way. The world is so vast, and it felt like even towards the latter end of my playthrough, I was still discovering new things. I spent hours going on mini adventures just to see where it takes me. I would follow YouTube tutorials on how to get cool items that I wanted, fighting the odd boss along the way. I just did whatever I wanted, and it was fucking awesome. As I've mentioned a few times already, the world is massive. You have the beautiful but deadly Limgrave, the dark and gloomy Lurny of the Lakes, and the sinister rotting lands of Caelid, and countless other places I would just spend hours exploring through. The terrifying intimidation I first felt when playing Elden Ring soon vanished, and now I was feeling the sheer beauty of the lands between. It's a mystical world. So, after doing some side quests and steadily progressing through the game, I felt ready to start tackling the harder bosses in the game. And this wouldn't be an Elden Ring video without talking about the bosses the game has to offer. Some of my favourite bosses in the game are Rykard, Magma Wormmaker, Starscrounge Radahn, and Placidusax. And on the other hand, some of the bosses that I struggled with were the Red Wolf of Radagon, and yep, I know, give me a break guys, the Godskin Duo, Mohg, and of course Malenia. And man, the boss designs are so cool, and honestly, I wish I knew more about the lore surrounding them all. I have watched the odd YouTube video, and occasionally I'll read item descriptions, but as far as my knowledge on the lore goes, it's safe to say that I have a lot to learn. Oh, and I'm pretty sure that I did Malenia in sub 100 attempts for anyone that is interested. After spending 150 hours on the game, it's safe to say that I was addicted. When I wasn't playing it, I was watching other people play it on YouTube and Twitch. I'd realised that no other game compares to these Souls-like games, and I didn't want my playthrough to end. I still remember the feeling I got when I went down the lift to get to Siofra River, and I was literally left speechless. I had been exploring Limgrave for hours and I somehow missed this lift, and I could not believe what I was witnessing when I was going down what seemed like a never-ending lift to this beautiful, mystical place. How could Elden Ring have so many magical things to discover, I wondered. Just when you thought you've seen it all, you discover something like the Siofra River well, and it's safe to say it's things like this that give you the itch to keep exploring, even if you think you have discovered everything there is to see. I also remember being a super low level entering Caelid for the first time, and all I can describe it as was sheer terror. Big bird things chasing me, a river of bloody rot that kills you, dragons left, right and centre. Everything in Caelid just felt super unsafe and uncertain, and I loved it. I also found it super satisfying changing my armour and weapon set, and also respecing my character so I could try different builds. In previous games, these types of things would not interest me at all, but for some reason Elden Ring unlocked a side to me that I didn't even know was there. I fucking loved this shit. And for those interested, for most of the game, I rocked the Blasphemous Blade. Basic, I know. But I also dabble with Malekith's Black Blade. Malekith is a super fucking cool boss, by the way, that I loved. The armor set and weapon I ended up using in the DLC playthrough was the Knight Armor and the Sword of Night, just because I thought it looked fucking cool. But yeah, experimenting with different builds and different looks was a super fun experience. I realised that if I was going to spend all my time slaying these demigods and beasts, I wanted to look cool doing so. So, to summarise my Elden Ring experience as a first-time Souls player, I'd describe it as the adrenaline-filled, breathtaking, beautiful experience. The game is unforgiving, yet euphoric, and now I realise what I had been missing in all my years of gaming. It was these types of games I was seeking all along, games that give you the freedom to explore freely, but also requires you to be patient and tactical as you become more skilled. After completing the game, which I chose the Frenzied Flame ending by the way, I immediately downloaded the DLC, which maybe someday I'll do a video on discussing that as well. It was like I didn't want this experience to end, and ever since I've completed Elden Ring and the DLC, I feel like I have a void in my life that only Elden Ring can fill. The fun that I had on these adventures is something that I now long for in every game that I play. I have tried Black Myth Wukong since finishing Elden Ring, but that didn't even quite give me the same feeling. So maybe, in the comments below, you guys can help me choose my next Souls-like game, as I am now a Souls-like advocate. I could talk more about this game and do a much longer deep dive on the game, the bosses, the locations, and the lore, but for now, I just wanted to make a shorter video expressing my love for the game, while I work on a bigger deep dive project. But yeah, maybe someday I'll do a longer video on Elden Ring and the DLC, but for now, thanks for watching this mini passion project of mine. Hopefully some Souls-like fans enjoyed hearing about my experience as a beginner and got some laughs at my struggles. I have a video in the works about superhero movie fatigue, and I'm also thinking about writing a video on the life story of XXXTentacion in the coming weeks. I am a new channel, so I am still learning how to make the best content possible, but in the meantime, I plan to just keep talking about a wide range of cool topics that I'm interested in. And yeah, in the comments, be sure to tell me what your first experience with Elden Ring or Souls-like games was like, and what game I should try out next. I always engage with all of the comments I get. So yeah, this is Birdie. Make sure you subscribe to come along the journey. And yeah, peace out.